I can do some ASMR for you.
I mean, you could if you wanted to. That's up to you.
I don't want to. I don't know how to do that, but I can do it if you want me to. I can like
You just gotta whisper.
just rub the top of the microphone right here. Let's talk about the inferior movie Oppenheimer. No, I'm kidding. Let's talk about Barbie first.
Okay. What were your thoughts?
Are we doing no spoilers? I'm assuming first.
For
Just like
sure. Are there really?
just like
Is there anything as well?
I mean, I guess. I mean, what happens in the movie is a spoiler for
Well,
the
sure.
movie. My initial reaction was that it was okay. I wasn't too impressed with most of the humor in the movie, honestly. Like every funny moment I thought was in the trailer, which I had already seen because for some reason my theater decided to play the Barbie trailer before the Barbie movie, which didn't make
Oh,
any sense
really?
to me.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. What was
Yeah, that's
funny
all right.
about that though is that people didn't laugh at the jokes in the trailer, but then they laughed when they happened in the movie. So I don't know.
Bunch of posers.
Yeah, I was like, what? Like, were you not paying attention to the trailer, maybe, or like, I don't know.
I don't know. People are weird.
But I think the cast was the best part of this movie for one, and two, they did a phenomenal job. I think the acting in it is really good for how weird and silly and goofy the movie is. Ryan Gosling kills it as Ken, in my opinion. Margot Robbie is oh sorry, Margot Robbie is really good as Barbie, I think, and she does a good job of portraying someone who doesn't have emotions throughout the
Mm.
beginning of the movie, basically, and evolves into a character that has more than just being happy all the time.
Mm.
So that was my gut reaction to it. What about you? I don't know. I don't know much about either one of these movies for you, other than your little Snapchat thing you did. So
Yeah, and one of them was like a joke.
yeah,
Um, I mean, for the most part, I didn't love it. I wouldn't even really say it's like a good movie necessarily. It's fine, I guess.
was it what
Like
you
it's
expected? Because I know going into this movie,
no,
you were like, this movie's gonna have some weird stuff in it. Was it anything like that
yeah,
that you
well, because
expected?
the trailer presented it as if it was going to be like the surface level. It's just like a dumb, dumb comedy that looks like it would have came out in the '90s, and I was like, I feel like there is going to be a little bit more to this because the filmmakers behind it, they don't really make movies like that. So I just kind of thought like, oh, there's something that they're hiding, and it's gonna, you see the movie and you think it's a stupid, dumb comedy, and then it turns out to be this like existential movie about like death and what it means to be alive and whatever. But it
Right.
wasn't really that. Um, it's fine, I guess.
It's fine.
It's
Which
fine.
in terms of Wade terms, if no one knows if it's fine, Wade doesn't like it. That's usually what that
I
means.
mean, I've seen a lot of people like freaking out about the movie, and it's it's woke or whatever. I largely don't care about this movie. Like it.
Is it woke though? Because it kind of plays on that and makes it a joke. And like at least that's what I took out of
See,
it.
that's the thing. It is self aware. They do definitely make self aware like jokes in the movie. So I don't know, but I can definitely see how people would view it as that.
You have to have a particular humor to find some of this stuff funny, which for me, I'm not the target audience for this, so I didn't find a lot of
Right.
it funny. I
Yeah.
found, which I guessed was the point, I found a lot of the Ken stuff pretty funny.
That stuff was pretty funny. There was one scene. It was pretty early on in the movie during that like dance sequence where I think it was like Simu Liu or whatever did a flip, and then Ryan Gosling was just like, "What?" And he
Yeah, and,
just
and
like
Simu Liu
that.
was like, "You can't do this," and Ryan
Yeah,
Gosling's like,
that was pretty funny because that
"Mm."
was really dumb, but that was kind of funny.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I enjoyed this whole cast in this.
Yeah, the cast was fun.
Yeah, yeah. It's going to be hard to talk about them other than what their actual names are because everyone's named Barbie and
Well,
Ken in
yeah.
this movie, basically. Um, weird spoiler, I guess, cameo that happened. I was not expecting John Cena just showed up out of nowhere in this
Yeah, that was
movie.
strange. That was really
Wasn't
bizarre.
wasn't expecting that. How did you feel about Michael Cera's Alan in this movie?
I mean, he was all right. He doesn't really get much to do. He did have another joke that made me laugh. Where he's like, as soon as they learn how to build that wall sideways, we're fucked or whatever.
that was
Um,
that was a good
that
joke.
was
Yeah.
pretty funny. I just think like most of my issues with it have to do with how the movie's structured, and like the writing of it, because it seems like for most of it, it's like a dumb comedy, and then it tries to have some social commentary, but it didn't feel like um, Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, who wrote it, didn't seem like they really knew what they were trying to say, or they didn't know how to say it in particular, because they say like five different things in the movie, and those five different things like contradict each other. So I'm like what is the message of the movie? And then like the last 10 minutes of it is just this like existential like thing where like she's thinking about like dying and wanting to be a human or whatever. I was like, none of this was in the rest of the movie. Like, what is this?
I almost felt like it was two movies smashed into one. Like I don't know if it was the director or Warner Brothers that was like, we need to do like a fish out of water type movie, which they didn't do too much of, which I was kind of glad about. They didn't do too much of. And they also somebody else wanted to do hey, let's talk about like if a toy became a real person. It's like,
Yeah,
what
which
would they
I
go?
think that's also like an interesting idea. I think the like where she starts to like think about that, because she mentions that like 5 minutes into the movie, she's like, "Hey, you guys ever think about dying or whatever?" I don't understand like why she did that. She just does.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. I think it was because they explained something about whoever's playing with the toy is the one who controls the emotions of it. So when that adult person, which by the way was not a twist for me, that it was like, oh, the kid is the Barbie's owner. It's like, no, you clearly saw in every clip that there was somebody else that
Right.
they
Yeah.
obscured their face for no
Yeah.
reason. But, I mean, I guess if you're trying to convince little kids, maybe that's a twist for a
Sure.
little kid. But yeah, they were like, whatever the emotions are of whoever's playing with is what the emotions are of the Barbie, which is weird because it means like, was she the adult character? I don't know her name in the real world. Was she like always happy go lucky until that very moment, and then that's how she got like?
I have zero idea.
And also, is there multiple Barbie lands for every person, or
Yeah,
does
that's
like
that's also weird because it seems like a different like dimension that they come
right?
from. But then it's like, okay, so but is there like a different dimension for like everyone? Like that's odd.
I don't know. I don't know. What I guess we're just going to go into spoilers because, like you said, there's not much in terms of spoilers. But what I questioned was like everyone in the real world was semi-normal except for Will Ferrell and the Mattel people. They all acted weird. They acted like the Kens do in
Well,
the
but see
Barbie.
that's another issue is that when you have the alternate dimension where everyone's all, it's all surface level, it's all, everyone's just like dumb idiots or whatever. Once they then come into the real world, it needs to be played 100% straight. And it's like I think everyone in the real world was kind of heightened a little bit, to different extents. Obviously, like Will Ferrell was in like a completely different movie.
He's hamming it up. He's having a
But
great
yeah,
time.
he's like a big dummy as well, and he was kind of annoying. Like I normally like Will Ferrell, but he's kind of annoying in this.
Also, the Mattel people, I guess I guess this was maybe attempted to be a twist, but they didn't do anything. They didn't need to be in the movie at
Right.
all.
Yeah, they were
I don't
painted
know.
in the trailer because they were painted as like the villains.
Right, which I think maybe that was the twist of like, oh, it's not the Mattel people, it's the Kens that end up being the twist or whatever.
Sure.
I don't know if that was what was intended. I did like that the Kens ended up being the villain. I thought that was pretty funny.
It's funny. It's a little weird though because his whole arc is just about like he just wants to be like noticed. So it's weird that he's like the villain of the whole thing. Because like that's all. Because like he goes to the real world and he's like, oh, somebody asked me about the time. Like whoa, and that like changed his whole viewpoint. And then he
One of
goes
my
back to his place and he's like, I just want like someone asked me the time. Like I just want to be like respected as a person. So
yeah,
it's a little weird that
one of my favorite quotes that he did was like, "Men are respected here." I'm just like, man, that's great. Derek's favorite quote from Ryan Gosling was like when he was talking to Margot Robbie in Barbie Land after the Kens took over. He's like, "Get me a beer brewski, bro, or whatever. And Derek was like, that's hilarious right there. That's
Yeah,
so funny.
yeah. There were some fun things with that. I like that kind of musical number he had. I wish there was more of those. I kind of wish the whole movie was like this weird musical or whatever. We only get like really 2 songs in the whole movie.
Yeah, but it had a decent soundtrack. I know they were promoting it like, oh, it's going to be on Spotify here soon. So I
Mm,
guess they were expecting more people to like it. I thought it was okay. It didn't blow me away or
yeah.
anything. But yeah, there's a lot of, this is the opposite of Oppenheimer in terms of there's a lot of random people in it that show up that I just wasn't expecting. Like I knew Simu Lee was in it, but like John Cena being in it, didn't know.
Mm.
I think the guy who plays Gravik in
Oh yeah,
Secret Invasion is one of the Kins as well.
yeah. He's in it.
Uh, I don't know many of the Barbies other than I think Dua Lipa's one of the Barbies.
Yeah, she was the mermaid.
Yeah. Uh, some of them looked familiar, and I just may not know any of their
Mm.
names. But how do you feel about the cast in terms of
Um, I mean, the cast was fine. I think a lot
was
of
it too
these.
much? I've heard some people say it was too much.
I don't think it was too much. I just think it's interesting, and Oppenheimer kind of has this same issue as well, and we'll talk about it when we get to it. But I think it's always weird when you have this like huge cast, and then you cast a bunch of like known people, but they're in like 5 minutes of the movie. Like that's always weird to me. Like, why would you get Simu Liu? Like, he's in the movie for like 5 minutes and he doesn't really do anything. Like, it's not like him and Ryan Gosling were like they were kind of beefing the whole movie, but then they just kind of resolve it in like 2 seconds. And
Yeah,
so it's like it's not like a plot point. So it's kind of like, why did you get him for this role? You could have got anybody. You could have got me to do this.
They only have a limited number of black Kins, Wade, and they already filled that out. So
That's true.
they had to get
Make
an
me
Asian
one of
one.
them.
They had to get an Asian. That's what Simu Lee was for.
I guess. Was he the only one?
He's the only one I can think of off the top of my head.
That's expensive.
Other than that, though, anything you want to mention about the humor? Because I'm curious to know about your humor take. Because I know you're very in particular about your humor.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ryan Gosling definitely stole the show. He definitely had a few lines and I think it's mostly just how he performed it, more so than the writing of it, because the writing of it is kind of dumb. But he clearly wasn't taking any of it seriously, so he was just like, I'm gonna take this to like 11 and just be like weird the whole time. There were some things that made me chuckle a little bit. I wasn't like laughing out loud, but there were a few things that made me chuckle.
How'd you feel about the Zack Snyder joke? I know everybody's been talking about that.
I don't care. That was the most like inoffensive, like one-off little thing.
It came out of nowhere. It seemed like somebody from Warner Brothers Studio was like, "We got to put in a joke about how everyone talks about Zack Snyder's Justice League."
Yeah, it was a very weird joke to have, because I don't know how many people are actually gonna get it outside of like this fandom. But it was fine. Like, I know people on like Twitter were like fucking losing their minds over it, but like it's not like they were like, oh hey, by the way, Zack Snyder sucks. Like they just mentioned the movie, and I was like, okay. I was honestly more offended by them making fun of The Godfather. That was offensive. All right.
Were they making fun of The Godfather or making fun of the fact that men will talk about The Godfather if no one's seen The Godfather?
I mean, it was probably more that.
What's funny though is Derek has never seen The Godfather, and I haven't seen The Godfather. But we mentioned it to my dad that they made the joke in the movie, and he goes, "Have you guys seen The Godfather?" and then he starts talking about it, and I was like, "You just proved the point of the movie."
Well, yeah, that's true. Then that's true to life.
Yes, my favorite joke in the entire movie, because I just wasn't expecting it, was like the narrator hadn't came up in a while, and all of a sudden,
I think I know
when Margot Robbie's like, "I'm no longer beautiful" or whatever, the narrator just comes out and goes, "Warner Brothers did a bad job casting if you wanted to portray this image here." And I'm like, and I just wasn't expecting it, and that actually
that was fun.
That one was actually made me laugh. But again, you have to have a certain type of humor for this movie, and I am not obviously who they're going for. A lot of people did laugh in my theater. I don't know about your theater, but A lot of people were laughing in that theater. So
it was. I mean, I saw it at like noon,
you saw it at noon.
There wasn't a whole lot of people there.
My theater was pretty packed for a 4 o'clock showing, which I was a little surprised by. There was a lot of people wearing like pink and stuff, and I was like, "Oh, so you're clearly here for Barbie, not Oppenheimer."
Right? Yeah.
But yeah, overall, it's okay. It's I'll probably end up watching again because Sam didn't go with us, so I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be able to. I'm sure I'll watch it again at some point, but I don't know if I'd ever sit down by myself and rewatch it. How about? Do you think it's got a rewatchability to it?
No, I mean, I like the set design of everything. I thought that was actually really great, and there are some
They do have a
shots in the movie that are pretty good.
They have a distinct style they were going for, and they nailed it pretty good in my opinion.
So I mean, I can respect it on that front. It's fine. Like I don't care. I don't think I'm ever gonna like watch this ever again or even think about it ever again, really. But I wasn't like angry watching it. Like
I might think about it every once in a while when I see Ryan Gosling or Margot Robbie, but that's about it. I'll be like, maybe. Oh yeah, they were in Barbie or whatever.
Maybe if they're in like another movie together, maybe. But
anything else you want to speak of on this movie? I can't think of anything else that we haven't talked about. There's not much that happens in this movie. I did think the movie ended kind of depressing almost, where it was like, oh yeah, here, go be a human, and it's like here's life and it sucks and good luck, and like basically is what it ended on.
Yeah, but like that's what I thought like the movie was gonna be, where it's like, hey, you don't want this because everything sucks, and like it's like a journey of like, oh, maybe I kind of like maybe I want to like experience some shit that isn't like, it's not everything's just perfect all the time or whatever, but like it kind of just happens at the end of the movie, and it's like, okay,
we meet Barbie Jesus or Barbie God or whatever, and she's just like, you're a human now. And it ends on
I guess that can just happen.
Yeah. And it ends on a really weird joke that I didn't like.
Oh, yeah.
Where I thought it was like, oh, she's going to go get like a job or whatever, because that's normally how that kind of stuff ends. It's like, oh, we're going for a job interview or whatever. It's like, no, I'm here to see my gynecologist. Like, that's weird. I didn't understand why this movie got a PG-13 rating. I was talking about this yesterday. Nothing in it made me was like, this needs to be PG-13. It can't be PG. Other than a few jokes that you could have taken out probably, but.
Yeah, I mean, definitely there's a couple jokes in it that probably, if they did cut it out, it would have been probably PG, but they left them in. So.
But there's no, as far as I can remember, there's no like hard swear words that happen in it. One person possibly gets shot in the arm. I don't know. That was a really random thing that happened in the movie. And they never touch on it again. Again, the Mattel people were all just useless. They didn't do anything.
Yeah.
They were barely in the movie.
Yeah.
And an inconvenience, if anything, for the main characters. So
yeah, it was kind of just to have something kind of going up against the main characters for the whole movie. But it ultimately just kind of led to nothing.
I give it an okay. It's a solid like 6 or 7 out of 10 in my opinion. So
that's fair.
I know you don't do number rankings, so you just give it a thumb to the left.
It's a whatever out of 10.
You give it the Nazi symbol.
I wouldn't do that. So that's how Derek reviews movies.
I don't think Derek liked it too much.
This doesn't seem like a movie he would have enjoyed.
He only really wanted to see it because he likes Ryan Gosling. So Dylan gave the same opinion as me. It was okay. It ended weird and it was okay. So that's how we were with it.
Yeah, that's honestly the best way to describe
it. Do you want to talk about the true best movie of the night? You want to talk about Oppenheimer?
Sure.
All right, let's get into it. I'm excited. So I went into this movie super amped. So I may have screwed myself over for that because I hadn't seen the Nolan movie in the theater since Tenet, and before that, I don't even know. Maybe Interstellar was the last one I've seen in the theater. That might have been in this last movie. I don't remember.
Holy shit.
So I was super excited, and it's on a topic that I really like. But overall, I enjoyed the heck out of this movie. I know a lot of people walking out of my theater, I could hear them talking. They're like, that movie was way too long and boring. And I was like, shut up. Like, it's great. It was fantastic. What was your initial reaction other than
Yeah,
not
I've
enough
been seeing a lot of people just be like, "Oh, movies are too long now." But I'm like, movies used to be like 8 hours. All right, like shut up.
right?
It was yeah, I loved it, honestly. It was pretty great.
I'm surprised. I thought you would maybe think it was slightly boring.
No, it was. See, that's the thing, because when you're like pitching that idea, it could come off as pretty boring. With because a lot of people don't know who J. Robert Oppenheimer like was. So like that idea, like, hey, we're making a biopic about this guy. Like, all right, whatever. But I think Nolan, him doing it, is what made it kind of interesting, because I know that he's like super passionate about this idea, and was super passionate about telling the story and Oppenheimer or whatever. And I think that like what the movie's about, because it's kind of broken up into like three different sections, where it's not just like a straightforward biopic where it's like, here's Robert Oppenheimer when he was 12 and blah blah blah. It's like you get a little bit of his life in the first act. Second act is making the bomb, and then the third act is him going like, oh shit, what did I do? Like, and
Yeah.
I think that idea, it was great. Everything leading up to um, making the bomb was like exhilarating, and I was actually like intrigued by it. I was like, oh shit, are they actually gonna make this thing? Even though I know history and they did. Um, and I thought the dialogue was great. A lot of the performances were fucking kick ass.
One thing Nolan excels at, I think, and it shows in this movie, he knows how to build up tension, even for something
He
that we
does.
know already is going to happen. He can build up tension for anything, and
Yeah.
it's great. And I loved every second of it. Now the cast for this is even bigger than Barbie, if you can imagine. I felt like for a little bit of it, I was almost like people talk about with Game of Thrones, where it's like there's just so many characters in the beginning. I'm like, okay, hold on, I need to take a breather here and figure out, remember who's where and who's doing what, and whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But after I got through about, I want to say 20 to 30 minutes, I was like, okay, I understand what's going on. I'm ready to go, because it kind of slows down in terms of jumping back and forth between different times and different settings and all that stuff. So
right. Yeah.
But overall, Cillian Murphy killed it, I think.
He was very good.
Cillian Murphy and Emily Blunt was really good in it.
She was great.
She wasn't in it as much as I thought she was going to be, but she was really good. She didn't show up till like an hour in or something.
Yeah, it was a while, but.
And Robert Downey Jr., oh my God, amazing. People need to stop pooping on him for saying that this movie was his favorite movie to work on or whatever. So
yeah, those people are nerds and they can get over it. All right.
People, I hate it. I hate seeing when people are like, "Endgame or Infinity War exists." It's like, yeah, and he doesn't mean that he doesn't enjoy working on those movies. He just said this was his favorite.
Well, also, like, this is his most recent thing. He's gonna promote it,
right? He's not.
So like, he's not gonna talk about a movie that came out like 5 years ago.
He's not gonna be like, I had fun during this, but Infinity War was better. Like, no, he's
right?
Not gonna,
yeah,
he's not.
That's not how that works.
No. There was a lot more political stuff in this than I thought there was going to be. I thought going into it, because I didn't watch any trailers or anything, I thought going into it that it was going to be more about the science of it, which they do a little bit of, but it is a lot about the political portion of building the bomb and stuff like that. So if you're not into any of that, history or anything like that, this isn't a movie for you. It's not Interstellar. Interstellar's more the science and the fantasy of it, where this is more the grounded reality of politics and all that.
Yeah, it's almost like a courtroom drama.
It is.
Like 90% of it.
It's like 3 different courtroom dramas happening at the same time. It's insane.
Basically,
anything you want to touch on before spoilers or anything like that?
I mean, I definitely, like I said about the last film, the cast, I think a lot of these people, they just kind of showed up. And it was like, why did you get such and such to be in the movie for like a second? Like, I understand everyone wants to work with Chris Nolan, and like he can get whoever he wants. But like, there were some characters that I'm like, you're in one scene. Like, why didn't you just get like
two people I can think of off the top of my head? freaking Josh Peck, barely in the movie, but
Mm.
it's very distracting when he showed up. I was like, oh, it's
Yeah,
Josh. And then it's like, oh wait, and then he's gone.
he
And
says like four things.
yeah, and I can't think of his name right now, but freaking Huey from The Boys.
Oh yeah, Jack Wade. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's in 2 scenes.
he's in 2 scenes, 2 or 3 scenes, and I'm like, oh, okay, he's gonna do something, and then he never does. Like, I don't even know
Yeah,
if he has any lines other than like
yeah, he
3
says like a couple things.
But yeah, it's almost really distracting when you get that many big names as
Mm.
cameos almost, because it's like, oh, it's that guy, I know that guy, and it's like, oh wait, now he's gone. So,
Right. Yeah.
but weirdly, I don't, maybe I missed it, but was there any weird sound design in this? Because I think he did a decent job of, I know how Nolan is with he's got, oh, you can't hear that guy's voice over the
Mm.
sound of wind or whatever. I didn't notice anything like that in this, did you?
Yeah, I actually think with this one, he actually like he might have learned his lesson a little bit, and it's kind of like, hey, maybe like, and especially since this movie is like all dialogue, I think he was like, hey, maybe people need to kind of listen to what these people are saying, so I'm not just gonna have a bomb go off in the background where people are trying to have a conversation.
There was
I thought it was pretty well mixed.
Yeah, there was only one portion, and it might be just because I can't hear, but it was like they were outside and there was like a windstorm happening, and there was people talking. And I was like, "What did they just say?" Like I didn't catch what they said because of the wind or whatever. But overall, not bad sound design. In terms of cinematography, what do you think? Not much
Yeah,
in terms of crazy cinematography, but it does a good
no,
job.
but I think people often, and this is with a lot of stuff, people often like confuse good cinematography with just like colors and like, oh, it's like, well framed. A good cinematography needs to help tell the story just as much as the music does, just as much as the performances, just as much as every aspect of the movie. And I think visually, it's not like the greatest looking movie of all time, but I think the way everything was shot, the composition of the shots, um, there's a lot of shots of Cillian Murphy just staring straight into the camera.
Yeah,
But I think that was effective, and I think that worked. And it really felt like you were in his head and like seeing what he was thinking, and I thought Nolan did a good job doing that.
he did, in my opinion. But you are right, and people don't notice cinematography unless something completely out of the blue that you don't see often happens, and they're like, "Oh, it's got great cinematography" or whatever. And then,
Yeah, and I mean there are movies that definitely like look great, and it's like, oh, that's a great looking shot. But a lot of times people just they purposefully go for, hey, I'm gonna make the shot look really fucking cool. And Nolan is very much like, hey, yeah, but like we can have a cool shot, but like what is it saying? Like like what does it mean?
I almost feel like this movie would have been better not in 4K. If it had that gritty '90s feel to it, it may have looked freaking amazing. But
Yeah, it definitely feels like a movie that came out like 20, 30 years ago.
yeah, but he did a good job setting it in the '40s or whatever. I didn't feel like we
Oh
weren't
yeah,
in the '40s throughout the whole time. So,
yeah.
um, Jason Clarke, by the way, in this movie, fantastic job.
It's
He
always weird when I see Jason Clarke because like he's not like in a whole lot of stuff anymore. So when he just
no,
shows up, I'm like, oh shit,
but he is a great villain, and I don't know if have
he's
we ever
really good.
seen him in a villain role other than maybe one of the
He
Terminator
was
movies.
Yeah, he was a villain in the Terminator.
Yeah, but he's a great villain. He needs to be a villain more often. Like
He's very good.
he's really good. Kenneth Branagh is barely in this movie, by the way.
Yeah, that's one of those things where it's distracting. I'm like, why the fuck? Like he just like turns around. He's like, hey, I'm Kenneth Branagh. I directed Thor, and like I'm like, okay,
I
why
was
are
in
you here?
Tenet. I was the bad guy in Tenet. Don't you remember me?
Yeah,
It's
like
like okay.
okay.
Um, yeah, I'm trying to think of who else. Florence Pugh was in it for a significant, but she played a major role in it, I would say, in
She
terms
was
of story
good.
wise. She was good. She didn't have a weird accent like she does in Black Widow, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
Where was Gary Oldman in this movie? I see him on this cast list, but I don't remember him in this movie.
he was the president. He was
He,
Truman.
he was the president?
Yeah.
Why did I not? That didn't look like Gary Oldman at all. They put him in a black
The
suit?
moment, like, because I think it like starts with like his back turn, and I was like, is this gonna be fucking like Gary Oldman? And then he turns around, I'm like, yep, that's fucking Gary Oldman, and he
I
has like one of
didn't.
the best scenes in the whole movie.
I didn't even realize that was him. Like,
That was him, and that's a great scene.
it is. It's a really good scene. Derek, before the movie even started, he's like, they better have a scene between Oppenheimer and Truman because it's really funny. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, if they don't do it, I'll explain it to you. But if they do it, you'll see. And he was laughed at the fact that he called him a baby when he left. Yeah. Derek was like that. That's the best thing about this whole story is that Truman just called him a big baby. Matt Damon is just Matt Damon like he normally is, but he does a really good job in his role as a general or an admiral or something like that in the movie. Dane DeHaan, surprisingly bigger role than I thought he was going to be in this movie, but he's always creepy looking in my opinion.
He's just got a weird face.
But the way he just talks and like acts and stuff like that, he's creepy looking. But
yeah,
he does a good job as well. And then I think he was in Interstellar. I don't know his name though. One of the other generals that sits down with Oppenheimer near the end of the movie, and he's like, why are you telling people all this stuff or whatever? I don't know his name, but I just know he's in Interstellar. He's
Who are you talking about? Oh, are you talking about Casey Affleck?
Yes, Casey Affleck. Yeah. I could not think of his name. Yes, Casey Affleck.
Yeah,
he's scary in this, in my opinion.
I mean, that's just him. Like in any movie he's in, he looks like he's gonna like murder a bunch of people. That's just him.
Yeah, fair. Han Solo's in this, not Harrison Ford.
Yeah, Alden Ehrenreich.
Which I didn't.
And he was really good.
Yeah, I didn't know he was in this at all, honestly. Until I think that's most of the main cast that I can think of.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never seen this dude before, but he was the guy who kept asking for the hydrogen bomb, and he was just sweaty throughout the entire movie. I was like, this guy looks like he smells.
Oh, are you talking about the Russian or the German doctor or whatever?
He was one of the scientists. But he kept saying he almost left. He said I quit. He's like, because I.
Oh yeah, that was one of that's one of the Safdie brothers.
Yeah, he looks nasty. He looks like he smells disgusting.
He kind of looks like that in every movie he's in. He's always like sweaty and gross looking.
He looks disheveled and sweaty and whatever. What else? What else we want to talk about real quick?
I like the scene where they actually like blew up the fucking bomb. Like that was a great scene.
Amazing scene. I loved how when they blew it up, because that's how it happens in real life. When you blow it up, you don't hear anything until the shot.
Yeah, that was cool.
Comes, and I was like, dang, he did it. He did the accuracy of it.
And it was like dead silent for a while.
It was. It almost did a jump scare when when the
because like the music and the dialogue is ramping up, and then they blow it up and it's just silence.
Yeah. It was great. It was great. That was the only I'm surprised they didn't show the dropping of the bomb on Japan at all.
Yeah, I kind of like that they just like said it,
because I don't know if you know, but the test bomb was really tiny compared to like the one that they dropped. So I guess if Nolan says he didn't do any CG, maybe that was a real bomb that they exploded. I have no idea.
Oh, it looked real. I'm sure he just got a bunch of explosives and blew them up.
He probably got like a bunch of thermite or something, because thermite's very
probably
explosive. But I doubt that they'd let him drop an actual nuke to be able to film.
No, that would be incredibly dangerous and irresponsible.
Yeah. Plus, Nolan shooting on film, I'm sure that's radiation is not good for actual film.
Oh yeah, and he shot this on IMAX film, which is expensive as shit. So
because he can. How did Universal approve that? I know Warner Brothers would, but I don't know how Universal was like, yeah, sure, shoot it on IMAX.
Because it's Chris Nolan.
I guess. Is he the only director that can do that? You think?
I mean, there's a ton of directors that if they wanted to, like I'm sure Tarantino could just walk into a studio and go, "Yo, I'm filming this all on IMAX," and deal with it. But he's the only one that really like wants to. Could
Spielberg do it if he wanted to?
Oh yeah,
you think so?
He's got enough clout. Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. He's kind of fallen off in the recent years.
In the industry, though, he's still pretty like well received. Everyone else.
Did you, by the way, did you see the picture of the film reel itself? It was huge.
It's pretty big.
It was massive. I think it was like almost 2 miles long in terms of like if
Yeah,
you stretched it out or something. Like that's
that was a
insane.
3-hour movie.
That's insane. Everybody in my group that saw it with me said that they thought after the bomb exploded that they thought the movie should have ended right there and not done the
No,
rest of the
no,
hour. That's what people were saying in my group.
no. Those people are dumb.
They were like, we didn't. Why do we need all this stuff about Robert Downey Jr.'s character and stuff like that? Just unneeded.
Because that's part of the story.
I'm saying what they relayed. I'm just saying.
That's what fucking happened.
I think it got really interesting even after the bomb exploded. It's like, oh yeah, because like you said, it's about the crisis of like he invented this thing that could wipe out humanity at any point, and like he's got to live with that. Like, oh yeah, I could be the destructor of the world at one point.
Yeah, like the whole movie, it's him being like, oh, I'm doing this to help our country in the war and blah blah, blah. And then he makes it, and like the moment he realizes like what they're using it for, there's a really cool moment when he's like giving a conference or whatever, and he's just like freaking out, and it's like silent, and it shows a bunch of people like disintegrating or whatever, and it just clicks like in his head, and he's just like, oh fuck, like this is gonna like get into the wrong hands, and we're gonna fuck our whole set, like everyone's gonna just blow each other up, and we're gonna die, and this is all my fault.
Which
like again, that was really cool.
That plays off the fact if Cillian Murphy can act without saying anything, and he does a really good job at just being scared, but also like keeping composure because like he's in a conference, he can't show that he's like having a crisis event right then and there or whatever.
Right.
I did like how Robert Downey Jr.'s character was like. By the end of it, he was like, scientists, he's turning all the scientists against me or whatever. And he started with Albert Einstein. And then Han Solo was like, what if they weren't talking about you? What if they were talking about something?
Yeah, what if they're talking about something way more important?
I guess Nolan showed that it turns out they were talking about something important. They're talking about the end of the world, possibly.
And that's such a cool way to end the movie. Like that final shot of him just being like, yeah, I fucked up. And then it just ends.
Here's the thing. If I was to ever meet Robert Oppenheimer back in the day, I would have told him, like, look, if you didn't do it, somebody else would have. So,
but see, that was part of his motivation in the movie, because I think it was him or somebody in the movie said, like, if we don't do it, the Nazis are going to do it, and they're going to just fuck everything up. So it's like, that's why we need to do this and get this done and get it out so that no one else does it.
And they toy on the fact, and I'm not sure how true it is, they toy on the fact of, like, we dropped a bomb on Japan after they were basically going to give up. And they were like, yeah, because we had two of them. Mine as well.
Yeah.
Because they were, after the first one, they were kind of like, maybe we shouldn't fight them. And they were like talking about surrendering. And then we dropped the second one, and they're like, yeah, okay, we're surrendering. Yeah.
Right.
And that also didn't sit with Oppenheimer very well, because it's like, yeah, you're using this bomb just because you have it. Like, that's not a good excuse to use it.
Which was the entire reason why he wanted to build it before the Nazis did.
Right. And he said, I think he said it in the movie, they won't fear it until they see what it actually does. So, and fun fact, if no one knew, that was the last time we've dropped a nuclear bomb on another country ever. So, anyone in the history of the world. And it's because of that. It's so bad. No one's dropped a hydrogen bomb on any other country yet. We'll wait to see what Russia does. Maybe they'll do it.
We'll get there at some point.
Don't wish for that, because that could.
I'm not wishing for it.
It could mean the end of the world, like predicted.
It's going to happen at some point.
If an alien invasion happens, then we'll use it. We'll use it on the aliens. In terms of score, what did you think? I didn't think the score stood out to me that much, which I don't think it was supposed to.
I think it was good. I know. Was it Ludwig Göransson? However the fuck you pronounce his name. Yeah. He's a great composer. He's done a ton of stuff and a ton of great scores. This one was there were points, like there were different like tracks that I definitely noticed. But I like that it was kind of subtle. It wasn't distracting. It didn't take away from anything, but it just kind of like gave you the tone of the movie, and like here's how you're kind of supposed to feel, but it's not like overpowering everything else that's happening in the movie.
Yeah, I agree. Like nothing. It's not Interstellar. I don't know who did it. Was that Hans Zimmer that did Interstellar? It's possible.
I think so. It might have been Hans Zimmer.
Interstellar, in terms of Nolan movies, is still top notch for score. Or you could argue The Dark Knight, but it's Batman. It's going to have a great score no matter what, just because it's Batman.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do agree that the end of the movie, that was a great way to end the movie. I thought it may have ended with them ending the war, and I was like, oh, okay, that might be where it ends. But they went like a whole hour past, like I said, and they went all into Robert Downey Jr.'s character stuff, which I don't even know who Louis Strauss was before this movie. I didn't know he existed.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with who that
is. But apparently he was a scientist that wanted to eventually become a member of the cabinet, and it's implied that Oppenheimer is the one who denied him into the cabinet with all the scientists and the voting and stuff like that. But that might have all been in Strauss's head of, based on what the movie is saying.
Probably, yeah. If he was anything like this in real life, he was a fucking dickhead.
Right. He was a dickhead, and everyone's out to get him is what he thinks. So.
Right.
But anything else you can think of you want to mention about this movie?
No, I mean, I definitely think I 100% think Cillian Murphy's getting nominated for Best Actor. I don't know if he'll win because there's still other movies coming out, but he's definitely getting nominated. If he doesn't, just fuck the Oscars as a whole.
I know who will win, Wade. It's going to be Jason Statham for Meg 2.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, that's the obvious choice. And I hope Robert Downey Jr. gets nominated because he was so good in this movie.
You don't think Matt Damon's going to get any sort of nomination?
No, because Matt Damon is just Matt Damon. Like, he was good. He's really good at being Matt Damon and stuff.
Yeah.
But he wasn't like Robert Downey Jr. was giving a performance. Like, he was acting like another person. And there were points where I was like, oh shit, like I completely forgot that was Robert Downey Jr. Matt Damon shows up and it's just like, I'm Matt Damon with a mustache.
I'm Matt Damon with a mustache and I have a uniform on. Look at me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think. Do you think this is going to get nominated for Best Picture?
Probably. I don't really know what else is going to get nominated, but I could see it.
You think it's going to win? Is that possibility?
It's definitely possible. I don't know if any of Nolan's movies have ever won Best Picture. I don't think so. I know some have been nominated, but I don't think
Dunkirk didn't win, did it, when it came out?
No.
Yeah, I don't know if he has won any.
It'd be really cool if this was like his big thing, but I'm not sure what's, because there's still like other movies coming out, so I'm not sure what's going to get nominated. But I could totally see this being nominated for like a bunch of shit.
I know what will win Best Picture, Wade. Haunted Mansion.
Oh, sure. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah. You see, you got to think about the future, Wade.
I got to think about the obvious Best Picture winner.
Is this your favorite movie of the year so far?
So far, probably.
Were there any flaws in this movie that like stood out to you?
I mean, there were a couple, and now that you like say that, it come to mind, and I'm sure no one else fucking noticed this, but as someone who has like edited stuff before, and I notice this in movies all the time, there was one shot, and this happened a few times in the movie. There was one shot where it was Cillian Murphy and Florence Pugh, and they were like sitting on the ground, like talking or whatever, and it was like a close up on Florence Pugh, but Cillian Murphy was talking, and he was in frame, like his face was in frame, but his mouth wasn't moving.
Oh yeah,
I noticed that, and it was distracting.
I didn't see that in this movie, but I've seen that before.
Yeah, and like I noticed stuff like that all the time. But it didn't like take me out of the movie or like fuck this movie because it's the editing. It was just something that like I noticed.
That's also something that's hard to catch when you're filming on film, Nolan. Just saying, you can't go back and look at a screen and be like, oh yeah, he didn't say what I wanted him to say right there, and we're gonna have to redub it and whatever. So that's just. I
mean, you could have fixed that in post. Like that's a lot of times if a movie is letterboxed. A lot of times that's because there's like shit they're hiding off frame. So I mean, you could have, if it was letterboxed, you could have fixed it, but whatever, it's fine.
Right? Yeah. But I know that was a big challenge for when he did like the Dark Knight stuff. Was like, hey, we're gonna do this action shot, and then it's like, did it look good? I'm sure it did. Let's move on. And you can't tell until you go develop the film and look
Right.
at it
Yeah.
and whatever. Why doesn't he film both? Like, why doesn't he do digital and film? That way he can look back at the digital cut of it.
Well, I mean, you can look back at film. It's just not as like easily like it's not
Right.
as easy as digital looking at a monitor. He likes that look. He likes that feel of film and visually, because film and digital's kind of catching up to film, where it's like if you light digital correctly, you kind of can't really tell. But there are still movies that like you can tell when it's digital, and I think Nolan just likes that film
Yeah.
because film there, the celluloid has there's film grain in it, and there's it feels tangible when you watch it. He just likes that kind of look.
Yeah. Yeah. That art of the industry is dying off.
Mhm.
Once Nolan's gone, it may not ever come back.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm definitely buying this movie physically. By the
Mhm.
way, probably a 4K version because I will definitely be rewatching this again at some
Oh yeah,
point in my life. How about
which
you?
that's awesome. I love that like a 3 hour long R-rated biopic about some fuck who built this giant bomb. Like everyone's just like ranting and raving about this movie and saying how great it is. Like I think that's awesome. It's not just the latest Marvel movie or whatever. Like it's this like weird obscure movie that Christopher Nolan made about a guy. Like I think that's awesome.
When we went to see it in theaters, the theater before us had just gotten out, and they were like walking out of the theater, and they go, "Get ready for a really long movie," and it was like a bunch of old people. I'm like, did you not look at what the runtime of it was before you came in?
It's a bunch of
Like,
old people.
yeah,
They were born in an era with like Ben-Hur. Ben-Hur's like 8 hours.
like these people, the people that said that they were like 70 or 80 years old. I'm like,
Fucking
you were almost alive when this happened. Like, this is like your history, and
yeah.
you're like
I,
this is
I don't
too
have a
long.
problem with long movies. I think people who have a problem with long movies have short attention spans.
Yeah, yeah. I have a problem with long movies that are boring because
Well, that's any movie. Just a boring movie, like a movie that's 80 minutes could be boring as shit. Like,
that's true. That's true. Cough, cough. The Dark Tower.
oh yeah, definitely.
uh, that, every bad movie feels long because you're like wanting it to end, and that's usually how it
Yeah,
goes.
no bad movies ever too short. No good movies ever too long.
Exactly. I was into this movie the whole time. I'm surprised I was because I thought at some point that we're gonna have a lull period where I was like, I don't really care what's going on the screen. But no, I was like into it the whole time.
Yeah,
Everything. I was like, yes, yes. Was Kelly Murphy doing an accent, by the way?
yeah. I think he's Irish
That's what
in real
I
life.
didn't. That's what I thought because
Um,
his accent is pretty dang good for doing, I guess, a Jewish. Is he German? Is that what he was?
I'm not sure. I think Oppenheimer he was German, but like he was born in America, I think.
Right.
But
Yeah.
he does have kind of a slight accent on him a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
He's
but yeah,
not
I
as
think Cillian Murphy did a good job.
if you compare and contrast another German scientist, Albert Einstein, he has a thick accent in this
Right.
movie,
Yeah.
which is relative to real life. Um, which, by the way, they used Albert Einstein perfectly in this movie. He's not in it very much. You would think
Mm,
he'd be a focal character point because he's a very famous scientist in
right.
the world. But I'm glad that they didn't shoehorn him into any of
Mm,
this because in real life, he didn't have much to do with this.
yeah.
He was a consultant at one point, but he didn't build or do any of the testing for
Mm.
the bomb. So I'm glad that no one like at Universal or whatever was like, we got to put somebody famous in this. Let's put
Hey,
Einstein
put
in it.
put more Einstein. Have it be a buddy cop movie with Einstein and Oppenheimer.
Or
It's like that didn't
or
happen.
or they're like, we need to put more Truman in this because people know who Truman is. He's the president. It's like, no, we don't. He doesn't need to be in this.
Right. Yeah.
But no, I did not know Gary Oldman was Truman. I didn't until you told me this just now. I did not know
It
that
looked
was Gary
exactly
Oldman.
like Gary Oldman.
It didn't though. He looked like I'm used to Gary Oldman being skinny, and he was wearing like a fat suit, or he puffed up
Yeah.
himself. I don't know which one, but also it didn't sound like him, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, Gary Oldman never sounds like Gary Oldman. He's always doing some weird fucking accent.
In Planet of the Apes, he sounds like Gary Oldman because he's just doing his normal voice. So
That's not no. He's doing an American accent in Planet
I
Apes.
I don't care.
He's British in real
He
life.
sounds like Gary Oldman though.
He sounds like Gary Oldman when he does an American accent.
I guess, but that didn't sound
But
like
that's not what Gary
him.
Oldman sounds like.
That didn't sound like him in Oppenheimer when he does an American
No,
accent.
because he's playing a part.
I know. That's called good acting.
Yes.
Anything else about this movie that you want to mention?
No, it's pretty fantastic.
Would you have wanted more? Would you wanted a 4-hour movie? Or was this
No, I think the length was just perfect. I mean, I'm fine with 4-hour movies, so if it was 4 hours, cool. But I think Nolan, and part of that has to do with the fact that like Nolan, I think with this movie showed a lot of restraint in a lot of areas, and I think the runtime was definitely like he could have made this as long as he fucking wanted. He's Chris Nolan; he can do what he wants. But I think he was like, no, this is like I'm telling this story; it needs to be this long. You know, I'm going to show what I need to show in order to tell the story, and that's it.
Yeah, I agree. I think Nolan is a fantastic director, which I thought that before, and I'm excited to see what he's going to do after Oppenheimer. I have no idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad he's kind of like everyone's kind of back on the like loving Nolan train because after Tenet, everyone's kind of like, because a lot of people don't like Tenet. But I think Nolan's great.
Tenet is a very confusing movie, even for somebody who understands what's happening in the movie. It's still confusing. So
yeah,
that's the issue people have with Tenet is that they didn't understand it.
Right.
Same thing with Interstellar. People hate Interstellar because they don't understand what's happening, and it's very.
Do people hate Interstellar?
Yeah, people don't. Some people who don't
pretty fucking basic.
People who don't understand basic space knowledge were like, "This is stupid and boring."
Well, I mean, but even just like the story's pretty fucking basic. Like
I've heard a lot of people that don't like Interstellar. So
those people are weird.
I agree with you. Is this your favorite Nolan movie, or?
I still think the wizard fight is still probably my favorite.
The wizard fight.
Prestige.
Oh, Prestige.
That's probably still my favorite Nolan movie outside of the Dark Knight trilogy. This is definitely up there.
Is it like your top 3, top 5?
If we're not including the Dark Knight trilogy, it'd probably be like top 2 or 3.
Top 2 or 3. Okay, all right. Yeah. Fair enough.
Because this movie kind of reminded me of like old school Nolan, because in the last like decade or so, he's been kind of like, I'm gonna make these big like spectacle action movies that are, you know, epic and whatever. And like his first like handful of movies are just like, hey, I'm gonna make a movie about, you know, Al Pacino who can't sleep and has to go like shoot Robin Williams in the head. Like, and this kind of is that again, where it's just like, yeah, I'm just making a movie about a guy. Like,
I really hope one day he does another space movie. He might, but I just love space movies, and I think
I kind of hope after this he kind of goes back to form a little bit and isn't just like spectacle all the time. Like I hope he kind of is like, okay, yeah, I'll make a movie about just some fuck showing. Like,
yeah. I dig it. I give it a thumbs up. It's not it. Barbie was a middle thumb. I give it a thumbs up.
Did you give it 1 thumbs up or 2?
I give it 2 thumbs up. Yeah, 2 double thumbs.
Double thumbs.
Double. That sounds like a weird sex position. You're getting double thumb, boy. You're getting double.
It probably is. I wouldn't doubt
it. I'm capping off both ends and just.
Oh my god. Yeah. I just assumed they both like in one.
Oh, just like a double.
Yeah.
Like it's a corkscrew, you know, and then you twist.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's like a butt plug.
I was thinking, you know, both ends.
You could do that also.